Welcome to the Reset Series, where strength meets science and purpose fuels performance, hosted by Ben Harrow and Dan Lounsbury. We dive deep into the intersection of mindset, recovery, health, fitness, and cutting-edge biohacking strategies, helping you reclaim control physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This is your blueprint for living stronger and longer. Let's get to work.
All right, 3, 2, 1, launch. Josh, welcome to
nice to meet you.
The Reset Series.
I'm gonna wrap around here.
I
get
one of
those. Nice to meet you.
Good morning, brother.
I apologize. We needed better planning. There's so much meat at this table.
A lot of meat in this room, and I'm digging it. I like it.
Yeah. Usually, this is actually the first time that we're doing this kind of like an interview where you're going to be interviewing in front of Dan.
It almost feels like an interrogation, but that's beside the point. Who is number 2? What did you do last Tuesday?
Yeah. But yeah, man, we're glad to have you on here. You know, Dan and I have talked a lot about you and Optimal Wellness Group and just helping us kick off the Reset Series, focusing more on the health aspect of it and the longevity. So we just thought it'd be a really good idea to have you be like guest number 1 for us to talk about a lot of what you're doing, how you got into this realm, and some of the things that we look forward to doing with you and OWG.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me on. Very honored, excited. As far as me, my background personally, did sports all my life, grew up playing sports. Always, like I said, around the health, the fitness, things like that, always intrigued me. So going through high school, college, actually ended up tearing my ACL in each knee. Really got me consistent in the gym, getting back as far as physical therapy, things like that, getting where I needed to be. I look back on it now, and I wish I had these peptides then, because it would have sped up the process as far as the physical therapy aspect. So it's funny to look back and kind of, you know, where I could have done and used it back then. But anyways, I went back football, track, basketball through high school, went to college, track scholarship. Did all 4 years of track there.
Where'd you grow up and where'd you go to school?
Grew up in Titusville, Florida. Okay. Very small town. I went to school at a college at Weber International University. Another actually a smaller town. But again, paid for my school because I got a track scholarship and we made the best of it. So I really enjoyed it there. After that, I had the what do you call it? The competitive nature still in me, but sports were kind of behind me. I mean, you could do obviously the other club sports, things like that. But I ended up finding really immersed in the gym setting, the fitness setting. Again, with as far as the physical therapy in high school and sports, again, really kind of delve deep into the fitness realm. So after college, actually my first bodybuilding show was my junior year in college, and that kind of got my feet on the ground with that sport. After that, continued training, and then got into really in-depth the bodybuilding world. Fast forward, 2018, actually I ended up getting my pro card and classic physique. During that time is where I kind of got a little bit more immersed in the peptides, the health, the fitness, the wellness, that side of things. Obviously going over blood work, doing that, and that's kind of where it really snowballed into. After that, really kind of got with the team, and then created an OWG, and that's where we're at now, a couple years in. Things are going really well. We're very excited. We have big things coming, obviously with you guys and things like that. So that's kind of how it all came about from beginning to now. And then, like I said, the rest is history. We're just keeping it moving.
So on the bodybuilding side, I'm curious, but you said junior year of school, you decided that was something you wanted to get into. Kind of take us through what was it about the sport, and then what did you learn going through it, like diet, nutrition?
Yeah. So funny, and I mean, the training aspect in college obviously wasn't an issue or factor. I mean, I did all my workouts. Again, I was immersed in the weight training world. It was actually funny. I got approached by our strength conditioning coach in college. And he goes, have you ever thought about, competing? Now, it's funny enough, my dad did a couple shows back in the day, and we kind of talked about it. And I go, I've always kind of entertained the idea. And then when approached to it, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So it was actually that summer. I took that summer after school and competed. trained, really kind of did the diet aspect. That was probably the first like real strict diet where you're really calculating, measuring out everything. And that was my first show was that summer, my junior year in college. And then from there, just kind of lit a fire. Then I had a goal in mind, you know, because I did another show a couple years later. And then I had the goal of getting my pro card, and that was it. Like it was tunnel vision from there on forward. But yeah, that's how it really came about. It was funny enough, like I said, my dad and I still talk about it to this day, because he showed me his old competition pictures, and doing the show, you know, years later. Like I said, with my strength conditioning coach at the time, and that's what kind of got my feet wet. And then from there, I kind of bounced around different coaches. But yeah, that's what kind of got it started.
And what do you have to do in order to obtain a pro card?
So it's a good question. So you basically, you can do a local show. They basically, top 3, you qualify for nationals. Once you qualify for nationals, then you obviously go to a national show. Depending on the national show, depends on how you qualify for your pro card. Some shows you have to take the overall. Some shows it's the first place in that division. Some shows it's first and second. So it really depends on the show that you compete in. But that's kind of the steps as to getting your pro card. And after I got my pro card, a couple years later, I did 2 pro shows. And funny enough, kind of got really into the wellness side as far as the clinic, and then really been focusing more so on that with getting the clinic going and the business side of things.
So one of the biggest things that we're going to talk about today is peptides. And we were talking about this a little bit before, and I know you don't have an exact answer, but why are peptides, I guess, what are peptides? And then also, why are peptides so big now? And we were talking about it where it's like,
great question.
On social media, maybe it's because our phones are listening to us and we're all talking about it so much. I keep seeing ads for peptides. It just seems to keep popping up. And why are peptides kind of like in the mainstream social media and media right now?
I think I told you out there it was a phenomenal question. I would love to do like a little deep dive history lesson. From my own knowledge and from what I do know. I mean, as far as what a peptide is, and are short chains of amino acids, and amino acids are obviously building blocks of proteins. So it's basically what a peptide is. As far as gaining traction and popularity, my theory and guess would be more so just the generation we're in now, as far as, you know, living longer, longevity, overall well-being, everyone wants to look younger, you know, feel better. I think that's really just gained more popularity and traction as of recent. Peptides have been around for, you know, many years, but as far as the popularity of it now, I think it's just more so everyone being a little bit more cognizant and open-minded to the longevity of, again, well-being, living longer, feeling younger, that sort of thing. So that would be pretty much my guess as far as why now compared to then. Obviously, as you know, more is being studied. Obviously, these things don't happen overnight. There's extensive studies that are going on, so things are evolving. So I think more of the peptides are evolving. I think more studies are being done, especially, like I said, with it gaining traction as far as the longevity portion of it. I think more studies are being done. More peptides are coming about. I think it's great. I think, you know, down the road, who knows what we'll come across and the evolvement will be.
When you say more peptides are coming about, so are there peptides that people take or people recommend for people to take that do certain things like fat loss or helping with memory or injury?
So you have, I mean, you could go in a deep rabbit hole with peptides. There's hundreds. So I like to put them in like 3 different categories. So you have your wound healing peptides, for example. That's going to be your BPC 157, your TB 500, your epithalon. Those are going to help with reduced inflammation, soft tissue repair, those sort of things, tendon damage, that sort of thing. Then you have your weight loss peptides. You have your AOD. You actually have your GLPs. Those are considered peptides. So that's a good example as far as evolving. As everyone knows, you have the semaglutide, the tirzepatide. What's getting traction now and becoming popular is the retatrutide.
So
there's not going to be a quiz on this.
There's a multiple choice after this.
Yeah. Okay. The word box is going to look amazing. So all the the fat loss stuff, the Ozempic and the what's the other big one?
You have Mounjaro, you have Mounjaro, you have Zepbound. Yeah. So those are those are the name brand.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you ever see the name brand on the commercials, thing that underneath you'll see in parentheses
GLP-1.
You'll see semaglutide or tirzepatide. So that's the compound medication.
Yeah.
The Ozempic is the name brand. But the actual medication, the compound is semaglutide or tirzepatide. And like I said, what's again coming more studies are being done. In the near future, it will become FDA approved, which would be the retatrutide. And again, that's a GLP. It is considered a peptide, so it's another one. Like I said, as far as weight loss, that would fall into that category as well. And as everyone knows, it's a popular one right now.
Yeah.
So, and then you have, like I said, your growth hormone releasing hormones or growth hormone releasing hormone peptides. So you have that's where your tesamorelin, your CJC ipamorelin, your samorelin, IGF-1R3, all of those peptides will fall under that category. So that's kind of how you could branch them out. And again, there's hundreds of others. These are just a few, just to give examples. But those are just a few examples of the popular ones that are out there currently.
How do you end up once again, these are all it's all new to me, so I'm asking could be considered stupid questions.
No such thing.
Stupid question, right?
No such thing.
Just stupid people.
And we're he's right here. You know that, right?
How do you take them? Is it a pill? Is it an injection?
You have both.
Okay.
So depending on the peptide, depends on the administration. So, for example, the BPC-157, there's both. You have the oral form and you have an injectable form. Usually a follow-up question is, well, which one do I know is going to be best for me? I usually, if it's for a injury specific, maybe wound healing, tissue repair, things like that, I think the injectable version is a little bit better. BPC-157 is great for gut health. So gut inflammation, GI issues, Crohn's, things like that. I think the oral version for the digestive system works a little bit better in that aspect. So it really depends on what you're really trying to accomplish and your goal is. But there are different forms that you can get with some of these peptides.
Okay, so for the injury stuff you're talking about, the BPC-157, that, for example, you want to almost spot shot where you're trying to fix or
that's a great question. So the peptide's meant to disperse throughout the body. It is meant to find the inflamed area. So you could technically do sub-Q or IM with it, and it's going to get to that inflammation. If it's a site specific, like you said, a shoulder, I like to get closest to the site as possible if it's manageable, just to kind of give a little bit more head start, if you will, and get in that area a little bit more quicker. So again, you could do it sub-Q throughout the body. It would meant to disperse. But for me, what I found really good success with, I'll give you an example. Because of my ACL repairs back in the day, every once in a while I get some inflammation in my knee. Out of the blue, it is what it is. I went right above the knee with, I did both. I did the BPC and the TB. I tried them both. And within a week, the inflammation dissipated. Again, I was able to go above the knee, kind of closest to the site, because that's where it was specifically. Everything else kind of felt fine. And again, I was able to kind of subside that inflammation within the week. So that's just an example of, again, spot specific.
Yeah.
But it's a good question. You get that a lot. It is meant to disperse throughout the body, so you can anywhere, but technically, if you can, I like to get a little close to the site.
And then, so I had a friend that had tennis elbow, and he used a couple of weeks, I guess, of peptides or a couple of doses, whatever it was. But I know it was for a short period of time, and he's like, it was like a miracle drug. He's like, this is the most amazing thing ever. If you ever have an injury, you need to try it.
Yeah.
So I've been dying to try it, and we'll get into the trial piece.
For sure.
Is that something you mentioned, that whenever you get the inflammation in your knee, you use the peptides? My friend I know has only used it once. So is this something where it starts to act up, you use it? Do people think that it's just going to be one and done? Or do you go on cycles?
That's another good question. It depends on the severity of the injury. So for me, like I said, with my knee, within the week, it subsided. I think I drew it out to maybe 2 or 3, just to make sure that the inflammation was completely subsided. But I still have some bottle left. So I was like, all right, I'm good. So I have it. If it does flare up on me again, I have some people use it long term, because we all walk around with inflammation.
Yeah.
So especially if you're depending on your activity level, things like that, we all have inflammation, aches, pains in the joints. I do have people that have used it long term, and it's fine to use so as that.
Yeah.
For me, it was one specific area, so I used to let it subside. And again, I still have a little bit actually in my bottle left, if need be. So it's a really good question. It really kind of depends on the injury and the scenario.
Gotcha.
So question, so you said that essentially peptides are the building blocks of the amino acids?
So peptides are short chains of amino acids,
Okay.
and amino acids are basically building blocks of proteins.
Right. So we've got something like, let's say 11 or 12 of the branch chain amino acids that are the primary drivers. So the L1s that we all know about, carnitine, et cetera. So in my mind, what I'm trying to understand is, are you saying that within those amino acids, the subcomponents of those are the different peptides, and those are what have been...
Those are where they're derived from. So so some peptides have more amino acid chains than others.
Okay.
Shorter chains or longer chains. So it really kind of depends on the peptides, how many amino acids they do are conjunction to each other.
And so most of the time we would be able to consume in food a lot of the amino acids that we would intake from the proteins, but some of them are also made in our body, and as we get older they become less bioavailable.
Your non-essential and your essential amino acids, correct. Yep.
So what would, when we were talking about it earlier, you said, like, for example, NAD+ was one of the peptides we were talking about.
That's actually a coenzyme. So it's a very good question, and we can touch on that as well. So NAD+ is basically a coenzyme. Our body naturally produces NAD. Unfortunately, as we age, our NAD production declines. Good thing is we're in an era that we can have, substitute that with either intravenous NAD administration or injectable versions as well. They do have oral versions. I think, my personal opinion, intravenous and injectable version is probably your best bet as far as absorption. A lot of my guys, again, are doing the injectable version, typically 3 times a week. There is a loading period. Again, stuff doesn't work overnight. So I believe with the IV intravenous, it's usually a loading of 1 IV a week for the first 4 weeks, and then usually as needed from there on forward. But as far as the NAD benefits, improved cognitive function, DNA cellular repair, and inflammation reduction as well. There's a slew of benefits with NAD as far as longevity, slowing down the aging process. Like I said, with the decline of NAD as we age, those cells usually, like I said, they age as well. So the NAD's helping repair those as we go along. So
the peptides that we would be using as supplements, would they be something that would normally be produced inside our body? Is it something we would obtain through food that we would eat, or is it simply something that's a synthetic?
So NAD would be produced by our body as well, as an enzyme. Okay. Correct.
So does our body produce the peptides, and we also eat amino acids as well? Like, is it two-way?
Yeah. So you're not going to eat, like, as far as a peptide like Somorelin. Like, that's not naturally produced by your body, or Tesmorelin, things like that. They're derived from amino acids and then synthetically made from there. Your body's not producing those things. With those peptides like Tesmorelin, Somorelin, things like that, they're basically sending signals to your pituitary gland to let your growth hormone production ramp up on its own.
Got it.
So that's what you're kind of trying to accomplish. Again, your growth hormone production declines with age as well. So when we were in our younger days, the early 20s, things like that, we could eat what we want. Fat was falling off, our lean muscle was easier, we recovered from injuries a little quicker. That growth hormone production declines as we age, so what we do is have peptide therapy to help produce that natural growth hormone production endogenously a little more efficiently.
So I remember growth hormone and HGH back in the days of, like, the Bash Brothers and McGuire and Canseco, right? And really overdoing it with the growth hormone.
You say overdoing it.
Sorry.
It's all relative.
Yeah. Overserved, still drinking, who really knows? But what are some of the do's and don'ts, or more so the don'ts with peptides? Because it seems like it's still fairly new, and not that there's not enough science out there about, like, long-term usage, because just the reading that I was doing, I mean, it's been around for at least 20 plus years, so there is a lot of data on it.
Right.
But just, like, what not to do with the peptides.
So you drop a good point. So the growth hormone, like McGuire, that's HGH. That's endogenous or exogenous growth hormone. So you're taking it from an exogenous source and injecting it into the body.
Yeah.
The peptides are increasing it endogenously, so our natural production within. So again, there's things simple. So it's a little bit more of a natural. It's mimicking our growth hormone production, whereas HGH is just exogenous, going, like I said, kind of like TRT. If you're doing testosterone injections, that's an exogenous therapy.
Yeah.
If you're doing growth hormone, for most people to be to justify HGH, there are deficiencies out there. So some people aren't too qualified for that. For most, peptides probably the safer, more route to go. Again, it's you're just ramping up your natural production more efficiently.
Yeah.
So that's probably been a little bit more as far as the popular way to go, the peptide realm. And the peptide route, just because again, it's as far as side effects. Irritation at injection site, flush for some people, maybe an increase in heart rate depending on the individual. Those are some of the extensive side effects as far as the peptides.
Yeah.
You will read also, which is I just had this conversation with someone not long ago, that the likelihood of increasing either tumor or cancer cells, because they are increasing your growth hormone production, but in the same breath it's duplicating and increasing your cancer fighting cells. So it's kind of contradicting in a way as well.
Sure.
We do blood work, obviously stay on top of that. I'm a big advocate of obviously getting blood work done. If you can get tumor markers, things like that, it's always a plus.
Yeah.
But as far as do's, don'ts, safety-wise, peptides are usually the safer route to go in that conjunction.
And if we start integrating this,
No, you're good, you're good.
A peptide routine into our wellness and our maintenance, is it something like where once you start this, you want to be on it for the rest of your life, or can you start? And what does it do to your own natural production?
It's another good question. So you're basically putting oil in the car. So, I do like, again, everyone's different, so I'm just going to use a rule of thumb. There usually is a ramp up period with all these peptides. So, 12 weeks for a lot of them to get the optimal, benefits, peak results. I typically would run someone maybe till 6 months maximum, and then I usually recommend a 30-day break. After that, usually around that 6-month marker, everyone's different. I know people that can go a little bit longer. They're still seeing the effects. Great. You can probably push it out a little bit longer. I'm just talking about for the majority of people. The effectiveness starts to kind of wear off. They get a little bit more desensitized. So I like to do that 30-day break to let the receptors kind of reboot a little bit, and then kind of reintroduce it, either the peptide or maybe something else, and kind of bridge on. But it's another good question. Some people will notice as they continued use, the effects that they got maybe in the very beginning, their first few cycles, not as efficient as towards the end, and it's usually because you get a little more desensitized to it. So that 30-day break kind of lets the receptors reboot a little bit, and then you can reintroduce.
And then, so when someone finds you, let's say they're referred to you, or they see our podcast and they learn about this and they say, okay, I'm curious, I'm interested, I've done some research, I want to get started. Take us through the process of what happens when they say, okay, I saw Dan and Ben's podcast and I'm interested in some of these anti-aging protocols and wellness. How do I get started and what do I do?
Absolutely. So usually I take them through. I do a consultation on the phone. I like to find what are your goals and objectives. Like what are you looking to accomplish? I like to go through that. Everyone's got different goals, good objectives. Why are you here? Why'd you come in? After that, I usually send them a link to get some intake forms done. It's usually a mail intake form, kind of go over health history, things like that. I do like to get blood work. Like I said, big advocate on blood work. The more documents and information we have, the better at the end of the day. So once we get the blood work, if you have blood work in, great, we can review it. I usually like it within 6 months. If not, we'll get some new blood done. Once that blood work comes back, we review it. We go over the panels and labs. If you are local, we have it. Dan, you know this. We just did this, the InBody machine as well. Again, another document that we can use to kind of keep accountable. We review that as well, and based on your goals and objectives and those lab panels, we can kind of really decipher what maybe deficiencies you have and what you're looking to do and what you may need moving forward.
And so one of the things we've talked about before when we were getting this series started is one of the problems we've observed in America is everybody just wants a quick fix or an easy solution. Like, give me a pill, and if that'll make me skinny, right, I'm good to go. So
look at the whole Ozempic stuff.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I'll touch it. That's a good example.
Yeah.
So how much of this is I realize this is not a one-stop shop, but how much of this is a solution that you help build for the client, depending on what their goals are?
So I'm going to use Ben's example, and I'll say this till I'm blue in the face, especially in the consultation. There is no miracle drug out there. This is a supplement to lifestyle change. So just because you're taking maybe the GLP or anything like that, even the peptides for that matter, it's going to only work better when you incorporate the training, the diet modifications, things like that. You just do the peptide, sit on the couch, wait for the miracle to happen, you're going to be sitting for a while. So again, to really get the full benefits from these peptides or even the weight loss, incorporating the diet, the exercise, you're just going to get the more fulfillment out of those peptides. So that's more important than anything else is the lifestyle change. It's at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a lifestyle. The GLPs, like I said, you notice most people, the biggest complaint is losing lean muscle mass. Usually they're ramping up their dose, they're not eating enough, they're not getting enough nutrients, and they're usually not exercising. So I like to be very diligent as far as the dosing with some of that. I need you to eat, you need the nutrients, okay? You also need the exercise. That's what's gonna keep, that's only gonna get to your goal weight quicker, but it's also gonna keep the weight off in the long run. So again, it's a lifestyle change at the end of the day. So even with the peptides, like the growth hormone releasing hormone peptides we discussed, it's still, the diet, actually, that's when you're going to get the full optimal peak benefits from these supplements.
And so I'm a big numbers guy, and Ben and I have talked about this before. He's a big feel guy. He wants to, he measures, how do I feel? How does it make me feel? Do I feel better and stronger, or do I feel, fuzzier, or do I have more mental clarity? So can you talk a little bit about what some of the measurements are and how your clients would track their progress? And then let's step into okay, we just started this, right? Mm-hmm. Just got our lab panels done, just got our in-bodies done. What happens next, and what can we expect over the next 30, 60,
So the
90?
first question with the feel aspect, we'll use the peptide, for example. So I know you're going to do the tesamorelin, you're doing the CJC ipamorelin. Again, everyone's different, so everyone responds to these peptides in their own way. General rule of thumb, usually with that first 4 weeks, most people notice an increase or improvement in sleep quality. So their circadian rhythm. So that's usually the first notice. Okay, I'm sleeping better. Yeah. Right?
I just want to get jacked.
I just want to look like you, bro. Give me this speed. Yeah. Do you take more?
Yeah.
No. So that's what you'll notice in the usually within that first 4 weeks. Then there's that build-up period to really get the body composition results, that increase in lean muscle mass, that decrease in body fat. That usually takes a little bit more time. Usually 12 weeks for some. The tesamorelin, they've seen a little bit quicker of a turnaround time as far as the ramp-up period, maybe 8 weeks or so. The CJC, usually that 12-week marker. I can't tell you how many people I've told this to. I go, give it time, be patient, because there is that instant gratification that people, they want it now. Yeah. I've touched up with people on the CJC, and it's usually the 8-10 week. How you feeling? Oh, I'm fine. I just, I don't know if it's really working. I'm like, you still got some time. I go, you're about that 8-week marker. I think you should have another supply left. Finish it out. Let's see how you do. It's like a light switch flops. Like as soon as that 12-week hits, now I feel it. Like it's so there is a build-up time, and to stay consistent. I mean, I know people, especially during the summer, it's hard when they travel, so they'll go on a week or two. I traveled for weeks, so I stopped. It's a little difficult to get that peptide again to ramp up when you're coming on and off of it. So especially in that build-up phase, stay consistent with them. Then it's going to work more efficiently in the long run. But as far as, like I said, is the feel, NAD, I have noticed people as far as some improvements in sleep quality, but also the cognitive function, mental clarity, things like that. The DNA cellular repair, that's going to take some time. Again, that's not going to happen overnight. That's consistent use over a long period of time.
So we're going to be kind of the guinea pigs, right? Because today's day one, week one. We're just starting this protocol. We went through the pre-procedures of the lab work and everything else. I'm about 10 years older than Ben, right? So I've got some slightly different goals for me, and I know you've got some slightly different goals. So maybe we'll talk for a quick second about this is where I am and this is where you want to go, because I think one of the cool things about the Reset series is we're going to have you back here at least in 3 months, if not sooner. But I'd like to talk about where we are today so that it's on the record and it's documented, and kind of where we want to go. And then 90 days from now, we're going to sit back down again, and we're going to look at some of the blood work and some of the in-body results, et cetera, and talk about that. So for me, right, like I don't get great quality sleep, so I would like to sleep better. I think I'm carrying too much body fat, and my BMI is a little bit high because I'm noticing as I'm getting older, even though I feel like I'm in okay shape, I get joint pain, or if I travel, like it's uncomfortable for me to sit on, more than an hour or two. That's why we get up during the podcast and move around. So, I'd like to lose a little weight. I'd like my BMI to be better, and I'd like to go into my older years knowing that my blood work is good, right? My lipid panels are strong, my vitamin panels are strong, my hormone profiles are good. So that's kind of my goal for where I want to be. What are you thinking as far as?
So it's funny and interesting too, because I know when you and I talked on the phone 2 weeks ago, and it was like, all right, like, tell me what are your goals, and I can prescribe and kind of steer you down the peptide journey. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, man. I feel pretty healthy and I'm pretty good now. I'm just more interested to try it, to see kind of what is not, I don't want to call it a fad, but why is it so popular? The hype, right? I sleep good. Sometimes I don't, but I know why I don't, right? Like I either ate a big meal before I went to sleep. I didn't work out. Yeah, I drank, you know, like whatever it may be. I know when I feel like I'm getting a little too much, you know, my BMI is increasing. It's because I probably been drinking too much beer. Not that I drink that much, but like I'll have maybe 1 or 2 beers during the week, but it's starting to catch up because once again, as you get older, your HGH slows, your metabolism slows. You can't break stuff down as much, right? When I start to get sore and my elbow starts to hurt, I know it's because the way I've been lifting, so I need to shift it, right? So I'm actually more interested in seeing the longevity piece, some of the like anti-inflammatory and the healing aspect, when it's going to regrow my legs.
He's the field guy.
This will put you on the map. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm really looking. I'm going to throw a split finger fastball again. No, but like just to try it, right? Like I've done the same thing with a lot of things where I've always been more about feel. I know I never was a big like creatine guy, and after the season 1 year in lacrosse, maybe it was like my junior or senior season, and we had like a month off, and it was kind of like rebuilding, and you know, you're so broken down after playing a whole season of D1 sports. I did a cycle of creatine just to try it, and I was like, all right, I kind of see it, but it's not like this huge like miracle drug, right?
Yeah, of course not.
So I'm really just more curious to see, like you said, like at the 12-week mark, like, do I really start to have amazing sleep? Did I think I was having amazing sleep before, and now I'm like having amazing sleep with like the vivid dreams,
right?
You know,
it could put some things in perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? As well as you think you feel, you'll have a comparison, and again, there's nothing better than a personal experience.
Exactly.
So to put yourself through it, again, obviously there's a lot of popularity and hype around it. So obviously it's gaining interest. But there's nothing better than, again, experimenting on your own and really being able to speak from experience. Like I said, we talked about, as soon as you talked about inflammation, the BPC came up immediately after that. So I know how you train, you too, Dan. Like I said, that was a big one as far as the recommendations, getting you going with that. I'm really excited to see how your guys' journey goes with this 12 weeks. I think you guys have really good results. Because I know you guys are doing your end of things too. Like I said, we just spoke about the lifestyle of it. It's not just, doesn't stop with just the peptide supplements. It's the exercise, it's the diet modifications as well, which I know you guys are doing. So that's what's going to be interesting. Now you have all pieces together. Now you had the diet, you may have the exercise, but now you have the peptide and supplement aspect of it as well now. So I'm excited to see you guys at how everything works out and pans out.
Quick question before we get ready to wrap this up. I know a lot of people are going to want to know, like, you don't have to give me ballpark numbers or pricing and all that stuff, but is this something where people are going to look at it and they're going to say, man, I'd love to get on X, Y, and Z, but I can't drop $1,000 a month or whatever? What do you suggest for people as far as what does the budget for something like this look like? Obviously, we're of the mindset of the most important things we can do are eat right and eat clean and exercise and take care of ourselves and our bodies. So for us, health is a priority, and I might sacrifice buying, a bottle of wine at dinner because that could be my peptide therapy for an entire month. But can you address some of the costs?
That's usually my follow-up is, how much do you value your health and wellness and your longevity? Like, are you going to do you put a price on that? Do you put a dollar mark on your longevity, your health, and your wellness? So, because like you said, in that same breath, they just got back from a dinner at Abe and Louie's. So, like, it really puts things in perspective. For some, it's again they have the value in that, so the dollar marker, it's irrelevant. It's not going to break the bank, at the end of the day, especially when we're talking about your health and wellness. But there's ways to go about it. I think the biggest thing now, and I get asked a lot, is these ads that you're seeing on the social media things. These peptide ads, these online things.
Yeah.
I don't tell anyone what to do. I just tell them to be, just be cognizant. Usually on those labels, it's for experimental use, not for human consumption, and that's on there for a reason. So,
Scary.
They say there's third-party tests, and there could be. Like I said, I can't speak for all of them. I just tell patients to be cognizant, be careful, do some research, do some diligence.
So that shipment from China,
no label on it.
Yeah.
I think it just came like this.
USA #1.
UAS. Oh,
I saw something yesterday about like methyl blue 12, and they said something like, 75% of what you can buy from Amazon, et cetera, online is from some manufacturer in China that does it for pool companies, but now they're selling it for human consumption.
Oh my, see, that's a
and
new one.
it's scary, man.
It's a new one.
So obviously you guys are dealing with only pharmaceutical grade,
that's
highly
what
vetted.
Segued into. These are regulated, pharmaceutical compounds.
Yeah.
Okay, so that that there's sterile, facilities. There's regulations. Like they have to abide by certain parameters. The stuff you're seeing online, there's no parameters, so you is the dose really what you're getting? Is it 15 milligrams? Is it 3 milligrams per milliliter? Like, what is it compounded with? So there's a lot of up in the air. Again, with the pharmaceutical compounding companies that we use, obviously they're regulated. You know what you're getting, safe for use. So, like I said, that's a very good question. That's usually what I follow up with.
Nice.
Gotcha. Well, I'm excited. And
Put me in, Coach.
Yeah, I think we're ready to go. I mean, this is actually like day one for both of us. I think tonight I'll probably start the NAD plus. And
gonna call me tomorrow and say, bro, I feel amazing.
Yeah. I feel something tingling on my head. I think they're growing.
I think this is longer than
but yeah, dude. Thanks for coming in.
I love it. Appreciate you having me again.
We'll have you back in, I think, in maybe we'll do like a 30, 60, 90.
Yeah.
And I like it. I could definitely like to come back on before the 12-week just to kind of see how the journey goes. That midpoint and then that 12-week of really seeing how you guys do and then moving forward, and following up with it.
I'll let you know how my bench PR is going and my squat and everything.
I love it. Put Dan to shame over here.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, thanks, dude.
I appreciate you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
All right.